Light in Darkness, a reflection for the 33rd Sunday in Ordinary Time. As nighttime temperatures dip toward freezing, and all but a hardy few of the garden plants shrivel up and die, the natural world announces its end time, and many of us feel our age and creeping mortality. For those who live in the northern hemisphere, the turn of the liturgical year, from the last days of ordinary time to the first of a new Advent, coincides with Earth's resolute turn toward the winter to come. Experience tells us that darkness and death in the natural world lead to new life eventually. The dark and cold of winter give way to the light and warmth of spring. Seeds resting in the soil germinate and send forth tender green shoots. Indeed, the earth needs death to create new life. The same cycle occurs in human lives, though less predictably. Experiences of loss generate new perspectives, new ways of thinking, of living, of loving. Yet, naturally, we resist, deny, and cling to the security and stability of the past, even as it slips away. As darkness falls earlier and departs only with reluctance, the tone of both the first reading and the gospel darkens with end-time solemnity. Deep down, each of us knows that our world is passing away, and we share with those around us the anxieties of our age. These last Sundays of ordinary time offer us an extended ritual moment, an opportunity to mark the deaths, illnesses, and losses that bring both our mortality and our hope into sharp focus. In the time between the Old and New Testaments, the so-called intertestamental or Second Temple period, the Greeks, who had replaced the Persians, were toppled by the Hasmoneans, who were themselves conquered by the Romans. Each of these regime changes dramatically altered the social and political life of the Jewish people. The golden days of nationhood under David and Solomon had faded into memory. More and more Jews lived outside the Holy Land, in the diaspora, and those who remained in the territory of their ancestors were tossed about in perpetual political ferment. Generations of violence and social unrest followed one after another, each threatening the collapse of life as it had been promised. This Sunday's first reading concludes a long section of the book of Daniel devoted to Daniel's visions. Written in code, like other apocalyptic literature in the Bible, example, Revelation, it flies under the radar. With vivid symbols and heavenly beings at war, it sends a hopeful message to persecuted persons, even as the reigning powers dismiss it as nonsense. The book of Daniel uses a clever literary device. Set in the past, it predicts events that have already occurred, with exceptional accuracy, of course, then points forward, anticipating God's intervention to dismantle the domination system oppressing God's people. It makes sense that the notion of resurrection, which had been quietly developing in Israel over the centuries, would come to be firmly articulated in a time when martyrdom was rampant. Daniel's bold assertion of new life after death offered Israel a flicker of light in the darkness. Thus we hear, "Many of those who sleep in the dust of the earth shall awake." In today's gospel, Jesus uses spooky apocalyptic language, sun and moon darkening, stars falling, heavens shaking, to warn his followers of the hard days ahead and help Mark's readers put their experience of persecution in perspective. Yet, amid the doom and gloom comes the Son of Man, Jesus Christ returning in glory, in whom lies our hope. Of the end of the world he speaks cryptically, but of that day or hour no one knows, neither the angels in heaven nor the Son, but only the Father, nudging us forward into the vigilance of Advent.